Dr. Seuss's ABC, an amazing alphabet book. Dr. Seuss's ABC, an amazing alphabet book. Big A, little a, what begins with A? Aunt Annie's alligator, A. Big B, little b, what begins with B? Barber, baby, Bubbles, and a bumblebee. Big C, little c, what begins with C? Camel on the ceiling, C. Big D, little d, what begins with D? Donuts and a duck dog, D. Big E, little e, what begins with E? Ear, egg, elephant, E. Big F, little f, what begins with F? 4 fluffy feathers on a fiffer, fifer, feff. Big G, little g, what begins with G? Goat and goo goo goggles, G. Big H, little h, what begins with H? Hungry horse, hen in a hat, H. Big I, little I, what begins with I? Itchy Ichabod, I. Big J, little j, what begins with J? Jerry Jordan's jelly jar, J. Big K, little k, what begins with K? Kangaroo and kite, K. Big L, little l, what begins with L? Lion with a lollipop, L. Big M, little m, what begins with M? Mice in the moonlight, M. See the moon? See the mice. Big N, little n, what begins with those? 9 new neckties, nightshirt, nose. 9 new neckties, nightshirt, nose. Big O, little o, what begins with O? Ostrich, oil, orange owl, O. Big P, little p, what begins with P? Painting some pajamas pink, P. Big Q, little q, what begins with Q? The quick queen of Quincy and her quacking quackaroo. I guess that's a quackaroo. Big R, little r, what begins with R? Rosie's red rhinoceros, R. Rosie's red rhinoceros. Big S, little s, what begins with S? Sammy sipping soda pop, S. Big T, little t, what begins with T? 10 tired turtles on a tuttle tree. Look at the turtles, they're tired. Big U, little u, what begins with U? Uncle Ub's umbrella and his underwear too. Big V, little v, what begins with V? Verna Vera Vin and her violet violin. Big W, little w, what begins with W? Willie's in the wash tub, washing Walter Woo. Big X, little x, what begins with X? X-ray and xylophone, X. Big Y, little y, what begins with Y? A yawning yellow yak with Yolanda on his back. Look at Yolanda, she's on the back. Big Z, little z, what begins with Z? A zizzer zazzer zuzz, as you can plainly see. The end. And when I see you, you'll get to hold the book and you can chew it or do whatever you want to it while we read it together.